AI Think Tank podcast, the future of intelligent systems, machine learning, and data science. I'm Dan Wilson, coming to you from Seattle, Washington. Today's guest is Dr. Patricia Beckmann-Wells, a veteran of DreamWorks and Disney who helped shape global animation pipelines and artist training programs. Now leading her own studio, Buncella Films, she works at the frontier of AI-driven virtual production, blending real-time engines with cinematic storytelling. Her latest production, Mom Bomb, is a bold feminist comedy horror created using over a dozen AI tools. It is the second of her films to be selected for Slamdance and is gaining international recognition. Patricia is also the author of Face It, a visual reference for multi-ethnic facial modeling, and her work on identity and character design has taken her to Pixar, SciGraph, and Epic Games. Welcome to the show, Patricia. How's it going?
It's going great. Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, excellent. It's wonderful to have a creative one, and we have a lot of media to look at today, and so many little things to cover in your journey that are from large to small. Really amazing with what you've done in multimedia, film production, and your leadership roles out there as well. You were, as I recall, involved in a lot of executive leadership roles at DreamWorks SKG, and you co-led and built Bangalore Studios, and at Walt Disney, responsible for art asset pipeline development, along with training and artist roles at Warner Brothers Digital, Film Roman, and ITE Denmark, among others. So tell us about this and how did you get into filmmaking from the start? What really inspired you?
I don't want to be cliche, but I was one of those kids. You know, your interests always show up when you're a little kid.
Hmm.
And yeah, I wanted to do that stuff, but I came from a family of artists, and of course, they didn't want their kid to be an artist because they knew what that life was like.
Right.
So I went the other roles. I worked at NBC Radio, at the White House. I was a journalist. I was a co-author on defense and foreign affairs publications, very
Hmm.
serious things. And then
Yeah.
I went on for an MBA. But while I was doing my MBA, I was making money making videos and posters and art.
Hmm.
And I just took a chance one day and applied to USC Cinema MFA program, got in, I uprooted everything and went. And from there, I met lovely people who I speak to this day, who were students in my program, and we helped each other through the industry. It's kind of,
Hmm.
you have to live this guerrilla life when you join the film industry.
Yeah, I can imagine just a lot of intermediary things that you do to patch it all together, and it's
Yeah, sometimes you're
amazing.
on a production 8 months and then you got to hook
Uh-huh.
into the next
Uh,
production, the next one. So yeah,
right.
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's never a straight path, you know. It's a mosaic. It's very
You're
rich.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what makes it exciting. It keeps you on your
Mhm.
toes and yeah,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
fun.
Every lane is your lane at that point. You really have to absorb so many skills and do so much. Along all of this, of course, you have your own independent film studio now, Buncella Films, and you're creating all of these movies with a multitude of tools. But let's talk about the fundamentals of what you do and your skills. Now, you're an author. I know about 12, 13 years ago, a really important book came out that you published called Face It. And Face It, let's see here. You have that on you. Hey, there we go. How
Do.
convenient. Yes. So, so this is the visual reference that it is for multi-ethnic facial modeling. It says right there. And that's tricky business. And anybody
Yeah.
out there who's a creative and is worked with video games or anything else or sculpting, or you've tried your best to get AI to work with your ideas or do something you want. It's very tricky for AI to manage that. And it
Oh
was
yeah.
last year. I did a lot of labs with my MIT cohorts, and we looked at this and we were like, no, this is still not right, and it only has an idea. It's not that great. So tell us about producing that book and really what got you where you were when you wrote that.
I was pursuing my doctorate at USC in educational leadership and psychology, and there was a gap being discussed at the time in many of our diversity classes where people were explaining how they didn't feel represented. And I looked at my industry and it, and at the time I had also adopted a multi-ethnic son, and
Hmm.
it just seemed like a gap that needed to be filled.
Mm-hmm.
So we took a chance, and it's very stressful to pitch something that could be a hot button, because if you don't treat it right, it can be something that doesn't help anybody. So we
Yeah.
were very careful to partner with forensic researchers at Bone Clones, which is a terrific company in Los Angeles that reproduces skulls from humans around the world through
Mm-hmm.
history of all the different animals. They even have giant dinosaurs in there.
Mm-hmm.
And we worked with their forensics team to explain how the clines around the world affected skulls with markers that can determine which cline a person may have been a part of. And
Mm-hmm.
that led to distinct features in the people from those different areas. I mean, 99.9% of our DNA and structure is exactly the same. But
Mm-hmm.
there's this little derivative that makes us look like someone from a certain part of the world. So we took a scientific approach and identified it. And really, I didn't think anybody would notice it. It was just a spark idea. But I have to credit the film and game industry as to how much they embraced it,
Mm.
because they took it to heart. It was a serious interest for them. And I was invited to speak at Pixar on informed identity. I
Mm-hmm.
spoke at Disney, I spoke at DreamWorks, and then for the Epic Games team, they were incredible. They allowed me to participate in their MetaHuman project, which they said was largely based on the book.
Uh-huh. Wow.
And yeah, and the MetaHuman project, I'm using the MetaHumans. I think they're a fantastic asset available for us
Mm-hmm.
and for filmmakers. So I was so honored to work with that team.
Mm-hmm.
And they had such great questions that led me into more development on the book. And a new chapter is going to be presented for this book, and it is in publication. It will be published, I think, this fall. And it
Mm-hmm.
will talk about fat deposits and how they
Mm-hmm.
move when they're aging and
Uh-huh.
skin structure. And it's largely based on the questions that we
Uh-huh.
researched.
Yeah, we know when the book comes out with this, you're gonna republish it with some new information, right?
Yes, and I
Yeah,
have to
okay.
say, this publisher that did this, and the new information is chapter 6, a whole new chapter.
Okay.
I love them for taking a risk on us, because it could
Mm-hmm.
have been very controversial,
Mm-hmm.
but we approached it, scientifically, and they took a risk on us, because you never know how the public's going to react.
Yeah.
And it could have been negative, but you know, I mean, for whatever reason people think of, but the honest intent of it has made a big impact, and I'm so proud of that.
Yeah. I
And it
love
was,
that. Wow.
thank you.
Yeah, you should really, once that comes out, you should go and you should do some workshops around the world with this. You have to. You
I'd love
absolutely
to.
must.
I'm
Yeah,
thinking about that.
to help people
Yeah,
put the words to work, and really because you understand the tools. I mean, you and I met last week. We talked about all the tools that we like to use for video production and content creation and AI and not, and a larger amount of what we were talking about revolved around bringing it together and integrating, tools where here we did everything from scratch by hand using splines and meshes and UV maps and everything until finally we're using generative applications that help us get there as well and produce those things,
yeah,
Um, so it's really phenomenal to see, all this come together. But no matter what tools you use, the wisdom in that book really could guide anybody into properly representing a variety of cultures in the best of ways. And as someone who's involved in forensics and a big fan of all of this and genetics and everything else, like it's amazing to see that it's been formalized. So, uh, anyway, so let's see here. You've been able to apply this and help other people apply it, and it's affected your output. As I've seen a lot of different things that you've done, and it's obvious, you're doing it right. Um, And there's a lot of things I want to share on the show today with everybody. This is a visual show. And before we dive into a little bit of video stuff here, I would like to show a few sets of what you're doing right now. I know I'll probably jump all over the place here, but let's see. There we go. So you, everybody out there can see this. So what did you use to design this? And this is from your newer efforts, but this blew my mind when I saw it. And I really thought that it could have been sculpted and created and then shot with cameras, but it wasn't.
It was influenced, but it's mostly words. But yeah, I do a lot of sculpting so that I can drive the look of whatever AI I make. And that was a huge influence. It was based a lot on my own art.
hmm I love this. This sort of reminds me of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood a little
Thank
bit.
you. That was what I was going for.
It's really good. Let's see. Oh yeah, here's another one. I love this one. This one really got my attention. The house on the left made me think of a Fisher Price playset
Yeah,
back in
thank
the
you.
late 70s, early 80s, and but everything's just so real. The tilt shift on the camera lens, it's so legit. I mean, this could be a real neighborhood and you used an analog camera with a tilt shift to get this effect. But in fact, this is all in the AI. I
And that's
love it.
all in the prompting. And I want to express that if you're a filmmaker with knowledge of lenses and lighting, you're not being replaced by AI. You're going to be very skilled with your
Mhm.
prompts because you're going to know the look that you want and how to get
Yes.
it. And that's important
Uh-huh.
for directing
Right.
that shot.
Oh goodness, yeah. I mean, even in still image generation, you can say things like use the
Right.
rule of thirds to place the subject,
Yes.
and then when you pan out, make sure it follows this spiral a certain way on this, coordinate. And yeah, or you could say make it look like the subject's being filmed with a fig rig, which is a handheld sort of saucer shaped handle set for a camera to make you pan around in 3D a little bit. But yeah, you can be as technical as you want in the prompting to do this. Now, if I may ask, what was this? What software were you using to do these scenes that we're looking at here?
I think that is MidJourney.
MidJourney, excellent.
Yeah.
I am constantly impressed by what they're able to do there.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Uh-huh. So let's see. We'll take a look at some others. I have one of your films up. And what's the title of this one?
That's Mom Bomb Part 2,
This
and
is the
that hasn't
part
been
two.
released yet.
Okay, great. I tell you what, why don't we'll do this. Let's take a matter of, let's say, I'll play this and let the audio talk over, like we were talking about, and then you can tell us about producing this, okay? We won't let this whole thing play out, all right? We'll just use this as a teaser, okay? So here we go. Oh, let me go ahead and make sure I share my audio here as well. Okay, here we go.
I was only 10 years old, and I was running through the forest to meet my mother in the next town. I had a knapsack and a big cast iron pan that slapped against my thigh. Each night I had a very big bruise. I was exhausted walking through the forest, and a Russian soldier stopped me. He said he had food in his tent. I was so hungry and tired. He put his hand over my mouth and tried to undress me. I fought him, and I hit him in the side of the head with that pan.
Wow. That's like Stuart Little, but better.
You're fine.
So let's talk about uh, what you used to make this and actually a little bit of the story behind that. You were telling me that was a story that someone told you. Share that with everyone there.
Yeah. Well, that's actually one of the sort of fairy tales, but real stories that my father told me about surviving the war,
Hmm.
and it actually happened to him.
Wow.
What's interesting is that that's my voice. but I'm able to use AI to change it. And
Wow.
yeah, and what you're seeing here is all metahumans from the Unreal Engine MetaHuman project.
Uh-huh.
And I'm able to use live links, so I'm the actor, and I'm able to make all their facial expressions. This is AI,
Uh-huh.
and
Wow.
yeah,
I
and then
just
I'm just using everything I can find
mm-hmm.
just to tell the story.
Right.
Like in the 70s, we used to use gum wrappers and animate all that stuff and found footage.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Same theory. They're just using
Uh-huh.
found footage from AI to create the story. And this is sort of a setup of the main character, Pez, who's a grown-up version of the character that you see in Mom Bomb Part 1 that you'll play later. And it's how she enters into this very groovy world where she's going
Wow.
to be the physician that heals thyself. And she has
Mm-hmm.
to face a lot of issues because she's facing a serious trauma in her daily
Mm-hmm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
this text won't be over it. I'm
Right.
just experimenting with some voiceover
Mm-hmm.
for that.
Sure. I love
But
seeing behind the scenes on this. This is great.
yeah, the way I build films is I of course write the script, but it's a lot by feeling. When I when I
Uh-huh.
get the tone of what I want to say, I work with AI as a sculptor
Right.
because you don't know what you're going to get. And the
Mm-mm.
best part of AI, and I so hope it doesn't disappear, but the best part of AI is the hallucinations.
Yeah,
It's
that's what it's
getting
made to do. That's actually
right.
what it's made to do. And whether it stays on track or in the rails with your prompting is another thing altogether. But they're meant to hallucinate. They're meant to generate. It is a probability, you know. It's like a baby seeing something for the first time and its eyes
Yes.
start activating and the neural networks wake up and all of a sudden things come into focus and that's how that sort of
I worry
happens,
that
you know,
that's going
so
to be
to
bred
speak.
out of it,
Uh-huh.
you know?
No, it can't. It's what it's made for. You can keep it,
Yeah.
you can change it and keep it on the rails in different ways and use different frameworks. And it's never just the AI, you know, it's a lot of framework just doing it. But and it's growing. There's so many different ways. Even OpenAI just came out with something last week and a real update to what they were doing. So let's say we'll look at the other one in a minute. So you know, you and I talked about a lot of the tools that we both use for certain things, and I know that one of them that you brought to my attention is worth
Meshy.
sharing with everybody. Yeah, that's right, Meshy. So anybody out there who's looking to do some otherwise AI video production and model generation, this is a great start, and you can see a lot of different people are using it already. Um, yeah, text to 3D, and it comes up with the models. It's not just a flat image; it's a 3D model, and then you can
Even
take that.
more. It UV maps them and
Yeah,
puts the rig in them, and you
that's
can animate it off of them.
that's a big deal.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah, that really makes life easy. So,
In the
and
second half of that video you just showed, I've got these
mhm,
therapy dolls that are kind of a a funny point in the video.
mhm. in the
And
first in this first video here.
yeah, yeah. And they are made with Meshy. So if you keep going, oh, you can scroll forward if you want. You don't have to play the whole thing. There you go. You had them.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
those
yeah, let's
guys.
see.
Yeah, those I made in Meshy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that was such a help.
Uh-huh.
And and then if you watch, I'm able to then take an image of these dolls and I took it into Runway and I
Uh-huh.
made them talk. And I was
Oh,
able to get facial expressions
wow.
on them. They talk in about a second, about 2 or 3 seconds. It
Right.
closes in on one of them. There you go.
I like that we were looking at each other's runways before the show started
Yeah.
today. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah, so and then and then
So
you're and
that's
again,
Meshy UI.
uh-huh, right.
And I was able to get this whole sequence done in a day.
Wow. I mean, it's so expressive, like what you're able to pull off with that combination. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, goodness. I need to make a an avatar of myself for bad hair days, right?
Yeah,
Anyways,
make an
yeah.
avatar that attends your meetings for you.
Yeah, this is amazing. Yeah, I just love that. I think, you know, and for what I want to do somewhat is to actually just use that to create different language versions of what I'm creating, so I am
Oh,
speaking that
lovely.
language on the screen, properly.
Yeah.
Uh, you got so many different things in this.
And that one's those, yeah, I made those. I think those are assets from Unreal Engine, and then I
Hmm.
was able to animate those in Runway.
Wow.
So
And yeah, so when you brought those assets into Runway, you brought they're 2D when they come into Runway, right?
yeah,
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 so it's a screenshot essentially that you're running from.
exactly. So
Amazing. Yeah.
the beauty of this filmmaking is that you
Hmm.
can do anything, but you got to know all the tools and you
Oh
know
yeah.
what to pick and pluck from each tool.
Hmm.
But once you figure that out, or once you get an idea in your head, your story can run the production instead of AI. It's no longer
Right.
an AI film, it's a story.
That's right. Yeah. Wow. So, goodness. This, hey, just did you use the Unreal Engine to put all this together?
I
Like
did.
the final? Okay, great. I was thinking that. Yeah, it's wonderful. This is definitely the way to go for AI movie making.
Yeah.
That,
So
uh,
I play with a lot of stuff. I composite, I mix
uh-huh.
things up. I I use the tools like found footage and I
Yeah.
just mess them up. Like
The
this is
road.
three different software, four
Uh-huh.
different software used to make that shot.
Wow. That's how I feel when I look back and think, man, how many things did I just use to do the one thing?
Right?
Yeah, that's what it
Yeah.
feels like.
But you had the vision of what you wanted and you just figured
Hmm.
out how to manipulate things to work.
That is really it. The vision's everything. Tools are secondary. It's without the vision, the tools are pointless anyway. So, wow,
Absolutely.
so many good the consistency and the mixture of looks that you're able to pull off in one of these is just phenomenal. I love it. Let's see here. I know we definitely want to show. We have this other one we'd like to show. I don't want to skip around too hard here. Um, actually, let's show some pictures before we get into the next one. Now, this is on your Instagram.
It's Mom Bomb Film.
Yeah, there we go. And so these dolls, everybody take a look at how their movement is rigid, like it would be an actual
Stop
opposable action
motion.
figure. Yes, exactly. I love that. I couldn't get over that. You have a real nice film noir look to what you're doing as well. Let's see here. Oh yeah.
That soldier, that's an important part of the film later on.
Uh-huh. I love that. Now
This is,
you go ahead.
oh, no, no, no. I was going to say this is one of the mother's memories because she's going to be
Mm,
going into the brain of her mother and her mother was severely traumatized. This is based on my family story where
mm,
she was standing by the river and they would all be swimming with her brothers and sisters and then the dead bodies of the soldiers would float by from World War II.
wow. That's pretty intense. Here's another scene.
Those are the squirrels in the pool.
Oh yeah.
The
Huh.
squirrels are a side character that, like her spirit guide that gets her through the emotions of what she's trying to work through.
Hmm. I think that some of these scenes you could start intermingling it with other software as well. Like maybe try Sora on some of that too and see what happens. Let's
Oh,
see.
what would happen? Would it like improve it or?
You could do a few other things. It has the ability to really keep things consistent throughout animation.
Oh, I would love,
I
yeah,
just
maybe I need to try that because
yeah.
these are older, some of these AI, and there's some
Uh-huh.
inconsistency in some of it. So I'd
Oh,
love to improve
sure.
it.
Oh yeah, I mean for rough drafting and getting the mood, the fact you're able to deliver so much actual mood and feel is just amazing. Also, this one makes me think of Evil Dead just a little
Oh
bit.
yeah, I haven't
Uh-huh,
seen
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Here's what I like to show off. Look at this. So we're gonna surprise everybody here in a second by showing your actual physical sculptures because you didn't just get here with prompting, you got here with actual sculpting and handiwork. Okay. And not everything is as it seems. Oh yeah, I love this one too. Just the scenes that are around here are amazing. I don't want to blow it. We're gonna show this in its entirety a little bit here soon. But let's go to you. I'm gonna stop sharing and let's take a look at some of your actual physical sculpture work.
Yeah.
We originally met, you were telling me, hey, this is a real multimedia effort. This is not just prompting. This isn't just some, Unreal Engine or
I'm not a complete word
models.
jockey.
That's right. That's right.
She's missing an eyeball, but
That's
I
okay.
I I did a lot of research online, and I there's a great puppeteer online that I bought a few base models from, then I sculpted
Hmm.
over them and
Hmm.
changed them into the characters that I wanted, which was a variety of characters. Because I was initially thinking of doing this whole film just with marionettes, and I was looking into Imagineering type stuff where I could
Hmm.
have a sensor driven Arduino
Hmm.
sensor in here that could react to sound and move this up and down. And that's how
Yes.
I originally wanted to do the
Hmm.
film. I thought,
Hmm.
you know, that's
Yeah.
cool. But then suddenly AI became a tool that could actually be used.
Uh-huh.
So I changed from all these characters that I was making and testing for the puppets that I was going to
Hmm.
use. And instead, I created a Laura from several hundred images of these puppets.
Hmm.
And I also had hair that I made from the goats in my backyard. And I made their wigs and stuff like that. And I dressed them up as different things and in different outfits. And I sculpted by hands. This, I didn't get any base model from anybody. I just went ahead and made this. And I did that
Wow.
all in ZBrush.
Hmm.
And this is another one, but this is unpainted. No,
Hmm.
but that's kind of where I started. And people were really skeeved out by these. And this is just another head that I was doing. Um,
Excellent.
I was even thinking of just doing replacement heads for some of the
Uh-huh.
images and stuff. I was going to do a real old time kind of movie in film with puppets,
Hmm.
and I don't think it would have made the same impact.
You know, yeah, exactly. That's like it made me when you told me with the Audrino, I was like, you could it's like the plaque of the fish on the wall and that sings songs and the head comes out and then it moves. It's like, all right, we got to rig a bunch of these up in series. I know we could we could do
That'd be
stuff
fun.
with these. That'd be great. But I love the fact that again, you're taking the original artisanal approach, okay, of model making. I know I mess with you about your set design, but I'm in love with your moods, okay, and what
Thank
you're
you.
able to produce. It's just incredible. All the scenes. But you know, I when I was young, I had an 8 millimeter camera, and back in the 80s, and I would sculpt and make claymation, and it was so
Oh,
arduous, and it was just
yeah.
character that was really nice, and it just worked out. And I was influenced by all the things back then that you could imagine, and grew up with until finally I met other people along the way, like yourself and Bruce Bickford. Actually, I know I told you about that and all of
You've
his.
got a great history. You should explain that out a little bit for the people that don't know.
Oh yeah, so Bruce Bickford was the person that made all of Frank Zappa's videos, his music videos,
He's
and
one of my heroes. I
yeah,
love his stuff.
and before that, I mean, honestly, he was really an amazing by hand. He was very autistic too, and but all this energy went into sculpting and claymation, and he did everything over and over again. He would not. He would add clay and take away clay to animate. It was really amazing. Something would get smaller and smaller and
And he'd
smaller.
keep track of that in his head, what was happening.
Yeah, a lot of what he did influenced and inspired Disney and other animators out there
I
and the
bet it did. He
players
was
at the
so
time.
inventive.
Yeah, he would take molten wax, like red wax, and then put light and flame underneath it and film that, and it would look like lava, tumultuous lava. He was doing Fourier transformations by hand, with waves and interference patterns and things that we use math and programs for, right? He was doing it by hand and could just see that logic. So like Van Gogh level genius, when it comes to being a visionary. But
Yeah, he's
back in those days,
amazing.
that's all you had was stop
Yeah.
motion. And whether or not you got to tangle with the new, CGI when it was coming out, I mean, that was a very expensive effort. But on the large, a
And
lot of
not
the
half as pretty, you
yeah,
know.
and claymation is born in independent filmmaking. I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at that. You could say, well, there's Rudolph, that classic stop motion animation, Rudolph with Snowman and Island of Misfit Toys, and that was done as a major production, But so many things since then have evolved, and from like Pixar revolutionized so much in 3D space, with what they did. And, you were around there, so it's just phenomenal to see how far it's come. So we've seen some of your models. We know that you're using ZBrush, things that are digital designing tools that help you paint in
Yeah.
3D, create models and do things, and then take that to a 3D printer, correct?
Yes.
And then have
Got
and
a Prusa
produce
sitting
that.
here.
That's great. Excellent. I love that you are very multimedia, and that's what it takes, right?
Everything. Yeah, I do CNC, I do
Mhm.
3D printing, I've got injection molding,
Wow.
I've got goats that I harvest their wool from.
Uh-huh.
It's oh, and I just got a clay 3D printer. I'm trying to figure out how to print
Ooh.
tiles, which requires infill. So there's still a little technology holding me back
Uh-huh.
there. But yeah, you can
Okay.
3D print clay. It's so
Oh,
cool.
oh my goodness. Okay, I didn't think about that. All right. Okay, I'm learning a lot today. So, you give me ideas over here. What are you doing? All right, so let's say we put it all together for everybody here for a minute. I'd like to show Mom Bomb Part 1 with the audio. Okay, we'll turn it down a little bit so you can narrate some and talk about how some
Sure.
things, what have you. Uh, there's nothing like seeing a final product of all these things come together, and we saw some, but we should check this one out. And let me make sure I've got everything set here, and we're gonna share it. So here we go. Share sound, and here it goes. This is Mom Bomb Part 1, and this is about 5 minutes. Here we go.
So this is heavily influenced by Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Mr.
Oh
Rogers
yeah.
is even
I grew up before the
mentioned.
internet. We didn't wear seatbelts. We ate sugar pops and Pop Tarts. You could hitchhike to school if you were late. We had a cooking show instead of the evening news. I remember being excited to join the local campfire troop because they built fires in the forest at night. It was such a safe and perfect world. Not at all like what my parents grew up in. But that's why they moved here. I was very shy. And one day I had to tell a bedtime story to my new campfire group. They had never heard me speak before.
This is a cautionary tale.
You should never go to the Overlook. Never go alone. Never
So
go
it
with
was
a boy.
challenging to get a consistent character a year
There's
ago,
a monster in the
March
woods. He
2024.
watches people kissing.
It wasn't
A couple was up there kissing.
wasn't something you could do so easily. So that was my challenge with this film, and I was really lucky to figure out a pipeline.
Start the car and leave.
Keeping consistency is tough.
It is very tough, especially when
Mhm.
you want to do different angles and shots.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I received a very big compliment from a film festival in Turkey. It was an AI film festival,
Hmm.
and this entire piece is AI, but they rejected it as not being AI. It's not that good, but it's very funny that they thought that real dolls were being used.
Dripping off of it. The killer
That's a compliment.
Yeah, yeah,
I
a
mean,
weird one, but
a very odd parallel to that is a long time ago when H.R. Giger was first becoming popular. He did Aliens and a whole lot of other things, and he was airbrushing, and his airbrush techniques were so profound it was never really recognized until an art tool until him. And his photorealism was so extreme that he would get stopped in customs in different European countries on the way to his art shows, and they would accost him for his work, saying, "Where did you get these photographs?" And they were so disturbing, but it wasn't real.
I didn't know that.
It's, it's a great compliment, right? When people think you did one thing and you did another.
I was the first one he followed that summer. Then one by one, the others stopped coming to camp.
So I can talk about this
I
later.
thought it
but
was
this is
because
based
of
on real
me.
events of being stalked
But
by a
it turns
serial
out
killer
there
when
was
I was
a
a
real
kid.
monster in the woods.
And that there was a hallucination where a face came out off the side that I hadn't been planning for, but I loved it so
Mhm.
much.
Yeah.
And there's consistency of character. It's not perfect, but at least you know it's the same girl.
Oh yeah,
My mom was a seamstress. She was sewing all the time, so she didn't have much time for me, but she did give me books. I loved Little Red Riding Hood.
oh wow.
She was sent by her mom into the forest to bring food to her grandmother. On the way, a wolf turtle
I love
ate
these
the
rules.
grandmother and disguised themselves as the grandmother. Little Red Riding Hood arrived and was eaten too. They were able to save themselves by ripping open the stomach of the wolf and jumping out. Mom said everyone is a wolf in disguise. A bomb destroyed my mom's home when she was a little girl. She never shared stories about her childhood other than to say that she had to take care of herself and her brothers and sisters. But she survived. So in times of trouble, I became
So
mom.
that's created in Unreal, but I
Uh-huh.
just comped it over an AI.
Wow. The consistency across those scenes was really good.
Thank you.
You must have used a whole lot of tokens.
Yes.
Wow, look at that. That does look analog. Okay.
Yeah.
No, there's
I think
no way that's AI. Now I'm
right. I
with
think
the
that's what
now
got
I'm
me
with the
rejected.
now I see why they're yeah, you're just too good.
And that last scene also was a hallucination. So,
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, yeah.
but it made the film.
Uh-huh. Well, cre- there, there's so many ways to work it.
Yeah.
Transitions are where it's at. Like AI can create the newest form of wipes and transitions for screens that yeah, yeah, I highly respect it, you know. Yeah, it's incredible to see it go from one thing to another. And then yeah, it was inspired by dolls and claymation, but it's all digital, you know. Um, I think that when it comes to the tools that we use, think about like the ability for let's say like Dolly on OpenAI. Dolly can generate an image, and then you can go in and edit it, and you can say, "Hey, remove like select an area and paint it, and say remove the
Yeah.
words here and take that out." Right. Um, and even back last year and a half ago with MidJourney, you could take and select an area and say replace this with the sidewalk or a street would become a stream or a river, right? You know,
Yeah.
but anything like that tended to just be great, you know, ad hoc tool for, you know, graphic designers and things like that. But when it comes to the 3D end of things, you know, it's all about object consistency and keeping things within a sort of frame, you know, if it's going to do any wild generating, it's not across the whole thing. It's within
Yeah.
object groups or zones, you know what I mean?
Have you seen what they're doing with 3D though now in AI?
I am because of
Well,
you.
well, no. I guess like that's too general of an
Yeah.
observation. But in Comfy UI, they've got
Right.
this thing where you can take a picture of a person,
Hmm.
3D rig it, and create a 3D model out of that picture and animate it based on motion capture.
So you can use separate motion capture and blend it in with this, and it will actually.
Yeah. You
Oh
you
wow.
you just got a photo of a person standing there, okay?
Hmm.
Then in Comfy UI, it will rig it and extract out a 3D model.
Just extrapolate from what it sees in shadows and
Yeah,
depth. It's like, well, I think this is
like
this
Meshy
thing.
UI does.
Yeah. Okay. And then you can
And
kind of, wow, Comfy UI.
right?
Yeah. That's so for everybody out there. Comfy UI is a node-based um, application. You run it on your local computer, and then it serves to a web page locally, and it lets you drag a sort of workflow together for generating and doing different things with art, graphics, what have you. You can use it for a lot of things, but in animation and graphics, it's wonderful. And so commonly people would use this for stable diffusion at home last year. There's a newer stable diffusion out, but anyways, but
It
this
gives
is
you privacy if you do it
I,
on your own computer, but they do have a web-based version.
you spend a lot of money. I mean, you have to wait with slower hardware. You have to wait for a long time, but you can choose all the settings like you would never be able to
Yeah.
choose before. And you can automate that and you can actually have it produce animations for you and batch operate. You know, of course, you walk away for half a day, it would still be operating on slower
Probably.
hardware, but it's just, I think about how long it takes to do standard video operations like, oh, render this HD video. It's 2 hours long, you know, and 4 hours later, for uploading. It just depends
Yeah.
on what you're doing. But anyways, yeah, it's nice. And again, the tooling is finally here for the most part, it seems like, for everybody out there. So if you want to go from, prompt to design to animation, it's here. But I think for a lot of us, what really matters is determinism, and the actuality of what you've created in terms of consistency. And so we want something that we can manipulate and pose, and it not be generating inside of itself all the time. Like once it's
Yeah.
generated, it needs to be a solid object that never generates again, unless another layer is placed on it and then it's doing some transition or what have you, or like light effects or things like that.
Oh, have you seen how they changed the light too and other I don't know what software does it,
Mhm.
but you can relight a scene just from a picture. What is that software?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Wow. There's
Kriya
so many
maybe?
wonderful things to explore these days. Last night I must have spent 4 hours working on a memory management system. It had nothing to do with graphics. And then some nights I'm looking at graphics, but there's a lot to just explore right now. I mean, even then we were looking at what was it? Here, I'll show this off to people just because we're on the topic. I am in no way supported or sponsoring anybody here. I am just showing it off. This is Rosebud
I've
AI.
never worked with that. I'm so fascinated with what this
Yeah,
does.
we were
Can you
looking
tell
at
me
this.
more?
Yeah, so it looks like, you just the the term is vibe coding, but you're just explaining in your prompt what you want it to be. Apps, websites, games,
Wow.
animation, and here people are doing all these different wonderful things, and they're doing it just off the top of their head. I'm not sure how extensive some of this is, in the sense of offloading for actual video production and other things like Unreal or 3D Studio
So
Max,
it just stays
Rhino.
in its native software. You don't import
Yeah,
it somewhere.
that's the thing. I mean, there's this gap between no code and actually knowing what you're doing on the back end. And but it's just interesting to see these tools come out and really promising. I know that there was one again that was really revolving around splines and creating splines and things like that.
Wow.
But I just would love to see a more accurate, precise retrieval generation where it's taking your exact objects and it's generating what they're doing but not what they are, and you let the AI generate the what they could do. And you could say, well, the
Yeah.
max range for this thing is it can't bend a certain way any more than this or that, or it has some conditions, right? And so it's not breaking the objects, but to intelligently animate, I think would be the next step. You hear that out there, everybody? If you're a developer, that's what we're looking for, right? So, um,
But
but
they're stepping into the arena. I'm looking at the Rosebud AI here, and
yeah,
I'm trying to understand what the remix means, but
uh-huh.
um you can see there it's it's the start. So in
Uh-huh.
6 months, this is going to be something entirely more adaptable,
Hmm.
probably addressing your interests.
Yeah.
You see how fast this moves.
Hmm.
Tapeworm IO, that's crazy. Oh wow, this is so much fun.
Right now, what phase are you at with your film, and what are you looking to do next?
I have a script. I have
You have,
a feature-length script,
hmm.
and I'm looking for somebody to work on it with me. I want to work with a big studio that can
Hmm.
push it out to people because the story is so important right now. I am working through the whole story to make it, and I'll visualize it with AI. It doesn't have to be an AI film in the end. This
Hmm.
is my concepting out what it's going to look like, what the ideas are. Inserting this gorgeous hallucinations from AI to help describe the visual, the mood. And I would love to make a stop motion film out of it, a regular stop motion film enhanced with an AI pipeline. And I
Hmm.
think that could be done in a fraction of the time that an AI studio has done it in the past because you can take images and kind of do the in-betweening with an AI assisted pipeline and not lose that gorgeous organic look of stop motion. As things improve, even more so. So I'm familiar with all those tools. I have the story, and I'm gonna start pitching studios actually next week. So
Nice.
yeah, I'm looking for anybody who wants to participate in creating that. In the meantime, until that becomes a project, I'm just working through it. And the film you just showed at the beginning, that's part 2. I got part 3, 75% done.
Mhm.
I might have the whole film done by the end of summer, completely
Yeah.
visualized and concepted out.
Yeah. I think it would be really great if you could be in collaboration with an AI development team it's working on these
Oh
types of
God, I'd love
projects
that.
to use you as an example to help them. Your movie could help them create their product, you see. And
God,
so
I would love to do that because I could
it-
share with them all the pipelines I built for the major studios
it's what it
and
takes.
technology out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it takes having that real creative like yourself who has uh, actual, feet on the ground, insight, know-how, hands-on production capability, and someone with not only a vision, but someone who is profoundly connected to the tooling the whole way. It's a very tactile pursuit for you. This is not some amorphous concept. You're truly working with your hands, and
Yeah. And you
until
want to
you.
keep that
Mhm,
human.
right. Exactly. It's
Yeah.
just like we said at the top, it's your expertise in these systems that it's not going to replace you. It's going to help enhance your ability to use the tooling. If you know how a
Yes.
camera works, you know a lens, and a way to describe these angles or these scenes, that's all legitimate production value. Like, it gets real results. It's not fluffy. It's very, very formidable. So yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah, we have a few bits of software to look at this week, I guess, and to explore further. I'm glad I could turn you on to Rosebud. I'm glad you
Yeah.
showed me
Thank you for
Meshy.
that. I'm
Meshy's
sending it off to people
excellent.
now.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've done a generative AI episode. So, I think last time I did it was a private show. But anyways, yeah, this is incredible. So, what's a really great way for anyone to find you and like your email or for anyone out there watching, what's a good way to get in touch with you?
Well, I've got a website you can probably reach me through. It's www.mombombfilm.com. And I
Hmm.
have an Instagram. It's mombombfilm and
Excellent.
Facebook, mombombfilm.
All
Can
right.
I tell you a little bit about the story?
Absolutely. Would love that.
Okay. So the reason I'm making Mom Bomb, I just created this story because I was trying to learn all the AI. There was
Hmm.
no intent to make a film that would go into film festivals, but it did okay.
Hmm.
Um, I started, I have this story that's been sitting on my chest since I was like 28 years old and learned about the depth of it.
Hmm.
When I was 12, I was walking home from ice skating and I kind of knew what was happening, but I walked through the woods and I went to my aunt's house first before coming home. And she lived in kind of a sketchy neighborhood. And I went up there. She wasn't home. I came down. My boots were wet. It was raining. It was miserable. I was just trying to get home. A car kept passing me and splashing me. And, I trudged through and I had to go through some more woods and stuff. Eventually, I realized this guy was following me.
Hmm.
And then I got to about a block or two from my house, and he tried to get me into his car. He was demanding, he was intimidating me.
Hmm.
And it was a very traumatizing moment for a child. And I ran to all the doors, all my neighbors, said, please help me. Nobody was home. And many people were avoiding their front doorbell at that time because we were selling Easter seals. And, we had inundated the neighborhoods and they were sick of buying them from us.
Hmm.
So I was left with this person on the street, but I was one of the first ones he was going after. So he didn't realize he could come and get me yet.
Right.
He was still tentative.
Hmm.
So he and his brother went on to be the most prolific and horrible serial killers in Ohio history.
Whoa.
And the timing is such that one of them got out on parole 2 years ago,
Hmm.
and the other one was up for parole like a week or two ago. But he didn't face his parole board. He just didn't want to. And I didn't even know this. My parents didn't believe me. And it's because they thought that I was reacting too much to their stories of the war and the Brothers Grimm fairy tales that they raised me on. So they shut off everything on that. because they were afraid, because they themselves had survived serial killers, because they grew up in World War II. And just like you heard in the little snippet from the squirrel in the beginning about the frying pan, that was one of my father's stories.
Mm,
So this is, I didn't learn till I was 28 that these two gentlemen went on and killed a dozen people in my neighborhood in horrible ways.
uh-huh.
I had heard these stories about these people from campfire stories, but they were mythic,
Right.
based on reality though, and that it really hit me. So that story was on my mind, and I just kind of sculpted that story out of AI, and then it became, it's now evolving into a story about how I'm dealing with a major event going on in my life now.
Right.
So
Amazing. Wow, that is horrifying.
it
And
was, and it's continuing in Toledo. There's a lot of bad crime going on, which is
mhm,
unfortunate.
yeah. Yeah, that's outstanding. It's a very original sort of film too, and how that came about and where that's going. So, yeah, someone needs to get on board with you with all the
Yes,
effort. So
it's a
definitely.
feminist horror story with a great
Uh-huh.
ending.
Yeah, good. Good. I'm glad it has a great ending. We need more of those these days. Well, this is incredible. I've learned a lot here. You have such a deep history with just the industry too, and again, you've been a part of so many projects, and you know so many ways of going about something that it would be a no-brainer if a development studio picked you up,
Oh, thank
to
you.
work on
I
this
hope
with
so.
you and help
Cross
because
fingers.
yeah, keep stay deep in your tooling, but also like again, like now's the time with as many changes and upgrades that are going on with image generation, and it's being revolutionized like
There
every
are a lot of interesting companies popping up. Have you seen, like, they're developing apps, and then they're having fans write fan fiction, and then
Mhm.
they're hiring AI people to create the films of that fan fiction. Have you seen those?
I haven't. I've heard some of this,
A
but
whole new industry popping up.
it's like a fever dream, and like I
Yeah.
have this idea. We're gonna get robots to write for anyway. you know, anyways, yeah, that's all very realistic today. Not a fictional news headline from yesteryears. So, anyways, yeah, that's great. So, yeah, everybody out there, again, this is a wonderful person to look into, Dr.
You're very kind.
Patricia
Thank you.
Beckmann-Wells. And you're on the West Coast now. You're in
Yes.
California, right? Okay.
Yeah. I
West
have
Coast.
a virtual production studio in a big barn,
Hmm.
and green screen and stuff like that. So you can put people in Unreal Engine and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And I have my little production cove here, which is all AI stuff.
So for everybody out there in the area, what's your neck of the woods in Cali?
I'm like Angeles Forest and Glendale,
Okay, there we go.
North
Excellent.
LA.
Now you know. So you're in proximity to a lot of different things. So that's a good area to be in. So excellent. Well, I appreciate your time today. It's been real
Thank
eye-opening and
you. This
fun
was
and
fun. I don't have many
yeah.
people I can nerd out with, so I appreciate that.
Uh-huh. That's what I'm here for every day. Anyways, well, thanks again. And everybody out there, take a look at let's see, Buncella Films is your independent film studio.
Yeah,
And again, we're gonna make sure that everything's shared in our articles for contact. So
I
again,
appreciate it.
this is the AI Think Tank podcast. This is Dan Wilson here. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you. Thank you,
And
AI
Patricia,
Think Tank Podcast.
thank you so much, Patricia. It's been amazing. So have a wonderful day, everybody, and we'll see you all again soon.